All right, in this video, we are going to look at how to graph the cosine transformations. So again, just like with the sine graph, we are going to label our x-axis in radians when x is present in our equation, and our x-axis will be labeled in degrees when theta is in our equation. Okay, so looking at this first example, just reading the equation from left to right, we start off with 2 cosine theta. So the 2 tells me that the amplitude is equal to 2. And since there's an understood 1 between cosine and theta, that means that the period is going to be the same as the parent function for cosine, which in this case would be 360 degrees since we have theta. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw in my y-axis right here. And since my amplitude is 2, I'm just going to draw some dashed lines to indicate that. And this, of course, is not necessary, but it does help with looking at the graph where it stops and starts. So we are going to make 4 equal marks to the left and the right of the y-axis. And since the period is 360 and we are going to graph 2 cycles, that means that one cycle will take 360 degrees and so will the other one. So we're going to graph one on either side of the x or the y-axis. So 360 divided by 4 is 90. And then of course to the left, I'm just using negative values. Okay, now we have to be careful because this is the cosine graph. So if we were doing the sine graph, if we were graphing the sine graph, it would start at the origin and do this. But since we are graphing the cosine, that means that it is actually going to cross the y-axis at 1. So what we have this right here. That's one of our cycles. And then the other cycle is going to look just like that, easy peasy. Okay, so the next example, we have 3 cosine 4 of theta. So the amplitude is going to be 3. The period this time is going to be 360 divided by 4. So that, of course, is 90 degrees. And then, of course, we're in theta, so that's going to be degrees. So I've got my x and y axis labeled. My amplitude is 3, so 1, 2, 3. Again, just to help me here, guide my graph. Y equals -3, the period 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 90, okay, so I'm going to have 90 on this side and 90 degrees on that side. So I'm going to have to divide 90 by 4. So that is going to be 22.5 degrees. And then over to the left, we'll have the same values. Okay, so now what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to graph again our cosine function. And since we don't have a reflection or anything, it's going to look exactly like the last question. Pretty. Okay, awesome. So now we are moving on to the third example here. So we've got a negative in front. That means we have a reflection. The amplitude is equal to 1/3. Now the cosine of pi over 2, that means the period for cosine, which is 2 pi, is going to be divided by pi over 2. So that means 2 pi over 1 times the reciprocal of the denominator. So that's going to be a period of 4. So again, my y-axis is drawn here. My amplitude is 1/3. So just going to do this. Y equals 1/3. Y equals negative 1/3. And then, of course, the period, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And since it's in radians, and there are 4 of them, 4 divided by 4 is 1. So each one of these is worth 1 space. And then, of course, we have a reflection. So that means my graph is going to look like this. Easy peasy lemon squeezy.